Hey everybody, I'm Mikhailov,
And I'm Nefarious Ways.
and
We
we
played a
played a
game.
game.
No, we played it.
This week we traveled through time with a flute. Hey everybody, welcome to the first episode of We Played a Game. We played this week The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time.
And
How
boy,
you
did
doing,
we play the
Nefarious?
heck out of it. Oh, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I want you to appreciate what I did here for you, Mikhailov. For those not knowing, it is before 11 a.m. I actually set an alarm to sit here before you and drink coffee and talk about a game that I love. I really hope you understand the sacrifices I do for you.
What's going on in life? What are you playing other than some old Zelda crap?
Well, life continues in a steady course. Currently, the game that I am absolutely attached to still remains my heart and soul right here. That would be Final Fantasy XIV. I am in Endwalker content. And as Mikhailov will tell you, it has taken me way too long there because I couldn't let go of Shadowbringers. For those of you who
Took you
haven't
long
played, I
enough.
highly suggest. Yeah, give or take a year. Um, and obviously, taking around my Steam Deck, I am so basic. I am sitting there playing Skyrim because I know nothing better with what to do with my time. But yeah, it's been RPGs and archery sneak kills for the past couple weeks now. How about you, Mikhailov? Have you delved into the backlog of games?
So funny you mentioned Skyrim because I have been playing another Bethesda game, which honestly, I didn't really like it at first. But I've got to tell you,
Mm.
this game has grown on me.
Is it Fallout?
No,
Ah, a boy can dream.
I still don't like the Fallout series. I'm
My
sorry.
God, my God.
One of these days I'll give 4 a shot because I
Mm.
hear 4 is like the best entry point. I know you're a Morrowind guy, you're a Fallout 3 guy.
If it's open world, it's for me.
Consequently, Morrowind, well, we may talk about this a little bit later, had a very, very small open world.
It did.
You just walked like a snail.
Well, it's not Morrowind. What is it then?
It's Pleasant Wind.
The game you're playing is Pleasant Wind.
No, I was giving a pun, and it was a bad
Oh,
one.
yes.
No, I am playing Starfield. What's that look for?
Isn't that basically like? Isn't that just Morrowind with guns and technology? It's like Fallout, but for a smaller scale.
It's a lot of people say it's Skyrim in space. I would argue that it's Fallout in space.
But Fallout does have. Oh no, it doesn't have space elements. I would argue if you like Starfield, I think you'd like Fallout. I think you're like halfway there.
I might be. Um, the thing I like about Starfield the most, though, right now, is actually the ship building and the outpost
Mm.
building. And they're about to release a massive update that's going to actually let you decorate your ship the way you want. So, right now, and I know you've seen me play and you've seen me in the ship builder, you can make certain habs, and those habs are pre-furnished and they have whatever you need. Like if you want a bed, you have to put a hab with a bed. If you want a workshop, you have to put that specific hab. Well, in the update, they're still going to have that, but they're also going to have empty habs. So you can use them as hallways or you can make them however you want. So, like, I can make my very own captain's quarters and I could decorate the bed and the posters on the wall and the I could finally actually have full blown ship customization, and I am here for it.
I get it. No, I totally get it now. It's Animal Crossing in space for you. You just can't escape these kind of games, can you?
No, I love games where I can build. Why do you think I play
God.
Final Fantasy 14 so much? I get to
And
build how
Breath of
my
the Wild.
character I get to build how my character looks. Once I start the quest line, I'm gonna have my own little island. I have a little apartment that I could decorate however I want. I love building stuff in games. I love
Mhm.
it. Like, I'm finally at the
Mm.
point in Starfield where I could build, where I can, like, modify my weapons to be the way I want to, and I can modify my suit to be the way I want to. So, I am not interested in the story whatsoever.
I'm getting that impression. The same
My
story as Animal Crossing.
my thrill of the game comes from the creation.
Well, I like
I do
destroying things.
I do that in Skyrim too.
Yeah, see, we're the opposite in that sense. I can't
Yeah.
stand the home build. Are you talking about like not Hearthstone, whatever the home building DLC was? Oh my god! Here is a house and a wife. That was a goal I got in real life, and my god, let me tell you, it comes with consequences.
I mean, the consequences are fewer in Skyrim because they don't care if you just run off and go on your own.
That's true. I can abandon my child at any time I want, and no law enforcement comes.
Eh, I can't do that, unfortunately.
No, no, I can't abandon my cats because I love
Mm,
them.
yeah. So listen,
Speaking,
it's hard enough trying to convince my wife to let me go to Japan next year.
yeah, good luck with that.
I think it's gonna happen.
Yeah, probably for you, Mister
Yeah.
Moneybags.
No money bags. This is gonna take a lot of saving up.
Mm.
So
Well, speaking of time and saving up, should we get into it?
yeah. So we played a game.
We
What did we
did.
play?
This week we played, and I say this week, but really it was over the course of our childhood and young adult life. We played Ocarina of Time, a 1998 spectacular classic. 1998 was such a great year. For those of you that are like Mikhailov and I, and were alive and young and healthy and had no anxiety disorders, this came out and hit the ground running. It quickly became the 1998 Game of the Year. In addition to that, to this day, if you go ahead and check Metacritic, it is in the number 1 spot and remains the only game on Metacritic to ever receive the number 1 spot. It is a 99. It has been considered the most iconic of games and a yardstick by which we measure other games. I mean, is it good or is it Ocarina of Time good? One of the things that we really need to explore and talk about is it was great in 1998, and I'll argue all day it was probably great for the next couple of years, maybe even 10. Is it great nowadays with its somewhat dated graphics and the somewhat tired ideas that game forward? Even though it was the pioneer in the late 90s of these ideas, including something that Mikhail will talk about, one of the most beloved mechanic of all, Z targeting, where you go into first person view and you can actually shoot things. This and Mario 64, it defined a genre. And here we are today in 2024 talking about something that came out when, my God, when the 90s were at its peak. And so were we. But can you talk to us about how does the game look nowadays, Mikhailov? I mean, is it are the mechanics where they should be? Are the graphics something that we could pick up today and be like, yes, yes, it's a smooth ride?
Well, I would argue, and I may get some noise in the comments, but that's perfectly okay. I would argue that the Nintendo 64 as a whole did not age well at all. Like, if you look at Mario 64 or Ocarina of Time, and you compare it to something that we have out today, I would not agree that the 64's graphic structure aged well. Ocarina of Time is kind of the exception to that rule. But it's also been slightly updated over time. So if you're asking me, Nefarious, what's the best way to play this game today? I would almost argue play the Nintendo 3DS version with because you have updated graphics. If you want the 3D, the 3D is there for you. Um, however, if you are more into the emulation scene, there is an APK builder out there for Android devices. It's called Ship of Harkanian. And what it does is it takes the original N64 cart, right? The ROM, and it builds a widescreen Android playable APK of Ocarina of Time, and you can also update the graphics. You could update the control scheme. You can have the right stick work as a free flowing camera,
Oh,
like
wow.
games today. Um, you
And it
could use the
updates the graphics?
it updates the graphics to look like the 3DS version.
Oh my god.
So it actually will use the assets from the 3DS version, but it builds it over the 64 ROM.
That's fantastic.
And it basically makes it an Android game. So if you have a handheld like the Odin 2, this game is going to look beautiful on that, and it probably would be the definitive way to play it today. If you don't have access to an Android device, and you just want to play it on your computer, I would still say, yeah, the N64 ROM is probably the best way to go. But
Mhm.
also the 3DS version if you want updated graphics. But I would say like Ocarina is more of an exception. Like I'm looking at it behind me right now and it still looks pretty.
It does. I mean, I was watching while you were talking too. It really, and maybe it's just because we're ancient beings from another time, but it brings back such good memories. And I think anyone listening to this who has played it, you immediately teleport to that time when you first got it, 98 or 99. If you had to wait, I'm so sorry if you had to do that. And you had this idea of like this is a first because we all played Zelda, didn't we? We all played Zelda 1 and we loved it. It was, I guess, as open world as NES games got before Dragon War decided to do it a little bit better. And then Zelda 2 came out and we all decided to get our first anxiety disorder thanks to that game and put it down. And eventually, like, oh, we came back to it again and went to the last boss and died several different times before we realized there's a glitch to kill him. And then this comes out, right? And what do we get? We get all that stuff with like a brand new perspective. The monsters are 3D. And the best part slash worst part of this, which we're going to talk about later, the nice idea of 3D, getting yourself a nice 3D perspective, which brings us to puzzles that are no longer just push a block, watch a door open, push a block, get a bomb. Now it's push a block in several different directions. And my least favorite puzzle of all, grabbing chickens, chucking them into cages, and then finding more chickens. And God forbid you go outside that realm, they reset and they escape because chickens are magical in Zelda games and they can do that and attack you as well.
They could summon
But
other
that perspective is
chickens.
new. I just she wanted her chickens, man. Do you remember that one? I think you brought this up. There was that one chicken that somehow got on us on a roof of a house. I challenge you, man. That chicken earned its freedom, but no, we have to go over there and get into that poor guy's roof and ride the chicken down, flying down like they're like some sort of like superhero. But no, no, this
But
chicken just
even that mechanic was revolutionary back then because you
yeah.
literally picked up a chicken and you needed to use the chicken to get to another chicken because when you held the chickens you got a little bit of gliding ability. And so you when you managed to make it onto the roof, you picked up the chicken, you looked like to your right and you noticed that there was a chicken behind a fence and there's no way to get to that fence.
Hmm.
So you have to jump off the roof while holding the chicken to get to the other chicken.
Mikhailov, how many people do you think in 98 to 2000 kids were tempted to be like, just for a minute, split second thought, I wonder if I grabbed a chicken and jumped off my family's house, I would glide because it fled. Do you think anyone ever thought that?
Are you talking about your own childhood?
It
You did
didn't
it, didn't
work.
you?
It didn't work. It
Well,
didn't work. And
that
it wasn't even my I think it was because it wasn't my chicken. That's what I think it was. But
it wasn't Link's chicken.
they used to give great pain medication back then too if you like hurt your leg or something from jumping off a roof with or without a chicken.
Well, you can't say that you're chicken.
No, no, near the that poor chicken. But yeah, no, it brought up some really painful but still interesting puzzle games that I thought that added complete dimensions to this game. And I also one of the things I also think that we could talk about, which is huge with this new 3D perspective, are these moments that come up almost like quintessentially with this game. But it also held on to some of like the past, the stuff that made it great. In particular, there's a night and day cycle. And depending on the quest, depending on the puzzle, depending on the game, the night changes the entire atmosphere, but it changes what you can do and what comes out. Classically, the night falls, our pose make an appearance. Our little ghosty goos come flying
The little
around.
skeleton
Uh,
monsters.
oh, those skeletons popping out infinitely. Where it became like it's close to a Dark Souls game because they just don't go away, and your option is to fight forever or run, much like Dark Souls.
Let's talk about that really quick.
Mm,
So, at the beginning of the game, right? You start off as this little boy in the middle of a forest
in a
with
treehouse.
treehouse in a treehouse, and you think that you're a member of this race called the Kokiri, which is a bunch of elves that don't grow up. They're all children.
Are they considered elves?
I think. Well, they're a race, a species. They have the elf ears.
Yeah, they're like little like Peter Pan kind of boys and
Yeah,
girls, right?
and
Yeah.
girls, yeah, but they don't grow, and they
Nope.
get the assistance from these fairies, and Link doesn't have a fairy, and so he's made
Mercifully.
fun of consistently for not having a fairy. Nobody knows that he's just a regular person, just hasn't grown up yet, and so one day he wakes up and he gets a fairy.
Mhm.
The fairy
And then it's
tells him
downhill from there.
the fairy tells him that he needs to go talk to a tree. In order to talk to the tree, he has to get past a bully. And so instantly this area kind of serves as a whole tutorial. And actually the first dungeon, you have to go inside the tree because the tree is infected with parasites. You have to kill the parasites.
Hmm. A story as old as time.
Yeah.
I have to get
So,
past the bully to garden.
yeah. Yeah. You get past the bully, but in retrospect, like that's kind of opening you up to the game's mechanics because while you're walking around trying to like get a sword and shield so you can get past the bully, you've got the other Kokiri people teaching you, hey, this is how you Z target. Hey, look up here, like use Z targeting to look at me, or go into first person, press this button. So you're getting all the little tutorial things at the beginning, but then you finally get out into Hyrule Field, and this day night cycle comes into play. The map itself is not very big.
Though at the time in 1998, boy, did it seem massive.
It did, and they were clever about it because they used Link's walking and running speed to simulate a bigger map. And so now you're faced with this decision. You know you have to get to Hyrule Castle. So what do? Do you hoof it all the way to Hyrule Castle and risk getting attacked and killed by the skeletons on the way?
Yeah.
Or when you start to see the sun go down, do you run and try to find shelter? In which case, that would have been Lon Lon Ranch. And so now this creates, for the first time in a game, this whole option of choice in an open world and this whole sense of exploration where, yeah, you can power through and go this way, and there will be consequences to that. But what happens if you go this way? What are you going to find? I come to find out, right there in the middle of the field, there's a ranch. Do you go there? Do you go to the left? End up in the middle of the desert. Oh, wait, the bridge is broken. I can't go there yet. So now I have to go back out into the field and try to find something else. So they created this sense of exploration, they being Nintendo, this sense of exploration and this sense of wonder and this formula that they used for several Zelda games afterwards, right
And
up
it
until
really
Breath
did
of the
reward.
Wild, where they changed the formula again, and now they're using that formula. And that's probably going to be what Zelda games are going to be for a long time.
It certainly was. And all of them reward exploration. I mean, if you weren't blowing up small pieces of land to go down to holes to find pieces of heart, you weren't playing the game.
Right. Pieces of Heart, that's another thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Fun ways to get
w-
those.
well, those, like, you had to play with time to get all of them. Some of them you had
Mm-hmm.
to play these awful mini games. Some of
Mm.
them you had to like go back in time and do stuff as a kid, so that way you can go forward in time as an adult and see that things had changed over the course of 7 years. and you had actually physically manipulated that flow of time, and then you were able to access that piece of heart. And some of the stuff, like, you literally get to choose whether you want to go through some of these really difficult parts of the game or just finish the game at a higher difficulty because you have less life.
And do you also have that moment in your head too when you're mentioning like running to Hyrule Castle? Because we've all experienced it where you're like, oh, I just gotta go to Hyrule Castle. It's a straight line. Watch me do this. And then you hear that notorious howling noise when the night comes, and then the worst noise than that, which is the clicking noise, because the gate closes at night. And you're
Yes.
watching it close, like, no, 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 no. And you get there just in time for it to close, to turn around, to have some skeletons and ghosts come at you. I think that everyone that's played that game has had that moment, and we can all just unite like a collective and say, "My God, that frustration right there." We still have a nice little scar from that. And it happened more than once.
I think when you finally get the ability to teleport to certain
Yeah,
areas, like, that's one of those things that's a lifesaver. Although,
fast travel.
I'm pretty sure, like, after you get through the halfway point of the game and you're adult Link, that no longer becomes an issue because the drawbridge is broken.
Yep. Well, you don't really want to go into Hyrule Castle too much, with it filled with zombies and all.
Yeah, yeah, and
And that's you bring up a really good point because the that is the other thing that I think changed the game with this. The idea of the time travel, the past and the future, it kept another old staple of certain Zelda games. A Link to the Past, my personal favorite, of the light and the dark world. The light world being when you're a child and there's only three shrines you have to go to, and things are bad, but they'll be okay. And then, like you said, you shoot forward 7 years, and now there's not just three shrines, and the world is a nightmare zone, and it's doomsday, and Mount Doom is just on fire, and Ganondorf is running wild, and he's in control. And now it's what was it? Remind me, five or six temples in which you have to save the sages. Was it five or six?
I think, let's see, one,
I'm
2,
doing math in my
3,
head. I
4.
want to say five or six.
I'm trying to remember how it looked on the
Yeah, that's what I'm
screen with
doing.
all the. Yeah,
Visualizing.
I'm trying to visualize the menu screen with all the stuff.
Someone in chat is screaming at us right now with the number, I'm
I
sure. I'm
think
gonna
I
have to take
want
note
to
of it.
say it's 7, but I could be wrong.
7?
No, it's
What?
6 because there's 6 sages. Hey, look at
Yes.
that! I figured it out.
Alliterate. There it is. My God, we're so smart. It paralyzes me with envy. But yeah, there was six places to go, all of them like more insane than next. And that right there, when we go into the future, this game's entire tone changes. And I think we all felt that when we were a kid because it goes from a typical fun-filled jaunt into the world of Hyrule and Zelda to a quasi horror game. I mean, these zombies I mentioned in Hyrule, these redeads, they are terrifying. I remember leaving Hyrule, seeing these shambling things that were once these annoying NPCs. Now they're super annoying and scary. They scream and paralyze you, and then they jump on you and bite you. This this is something that the a young Nefarious just wasn't that prepared for. And they're done even better in my in one of the dungeons, which we'll talk about much like. But there is horror elements, actual suspense and scares. And this kind of dynamic is beautiful because you have to go back and forth, don't you? You have to go back to being a kid to fix the future, like a ton of other movies have stolen the plot of or have been done to death. It's like Terminator, really.
Do you want to talk about how this game caused so much controversy over timelines when other Zelda games started coming out?
Oh man, yeah.
Because then they ended up Nintendo actually finally ended up like publishing an actual timeline just to appease the fans.
Oh my god.
Um and there's like the whole timeline like basically is based around like Ocarina of Time splitting everything. So when Link wins at the end of the game, the timeline splits and there's the timeline where Kid Link continues on, and then there's the timeline where Adult Link fails. And
Hmm.
so Ganon won. And that's where the Zelda games kind of diverge. It's so weird.
I don't want to do spoilers, which is a weird thing to say, given this is a game that came out, well over 20 years ago. But that last battle with Ganon, maybe we'll touch upon that later. I did not see that coming. I thought
Like
that
I
was
let's not even
fantastic.
like not even so much like the last battle with Ganon, but the fact that the first stage of that battle was hard enough,
Yep.
and then you get to a point where the castle is collapsing, and you have a time limit, and you have to
Oh
get
yeah.
the heck out of there, and there's enemies still coming at you that you still have to stop and fight,
Hmm. I
and
remember that.
there's doors that
Another
are
really big game.
locked that have to be open for you, and talk about pressure, like, that was the first time I ever felt real scared pressure in a video game.
You know what, you're right, because for a game that is so beloved, it actually has all the elements of the worst games of all time that they have. Like, it has the time limits, which I can't stand in any game.
I
Just let
can't
me
stand them either.
play. I'm sitting down. I don't want to have I work with a clock constantly. I'd like to pretend time exists as a concept when I have games. It has escort quests. I know what you're going to say later. But my God, and everyone who's listening, so you know what I'm talking about. Carrying that stupid fish person on your shoulders. I hate escort quests. It has those. It also has like unkillable enemies unless you do something funky. Yet, despite all of those, they come together in such an incredible, incredible way. Um, which leads me to the idea of what we go through with this game. Um, what exactly would you say would like is like the best aspect of this game? Would you, if you had to put it down to, was there one like certain thing that kind of like jumped out to you, one certain concept or area?
Um, I'm gonna say, as far as area and dungeon, my area and my dungeon are gonna be completely different.
Oh,
My favorite area is the Gerudo Valley.
really?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the music. And
The
actually,
music's great. Oh my
I
god.
gotta pause the brakes. Pause the brakes. Holy
The
crap, it's
brakes
too
will
early.
pause for you.
Oh my goodness. I have to hit the brakes for a second because we have to talk really quick about this music.
Mm.
Nintendo chose not to use the recognizable Zelda theme in this game. This is a completely original soundtrack. And at first I was thrown off because coming from the original Zelda, like, you expect to hear that music,
Mhm.
but you don't hear it.
Do you know why they chose not to?
I think they wanted to. I mean, I can't speak for Shigeru Miyamoto, but
Go for it. Try it.
I just think they wanted this to be a completely new experience in every way,
Hmm.
and the music is part of that. And so you get tones of it every now and again, but you don't get the actual song. But that's
Mm.
okay because that paves the way for other great songs in this game to come in and take over, like Zelda's Lullaby. Like, my kid still goes to sleep to that song.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, there's Zelda's Lullaby, there's Gerudo Valley, which is just this unusual, like, upbeat, like, really atmospheric kinda song. It, like, the whole most of the game, like, the music is just kinda, like, solemn. Except, like,
Mm.
Hyrule Castle's kinda upbeat in the kid storyline. Kakariko Village is just kinda solemn and peaceful. So is Lon Lon Ranch with the Epona song, which Epona, like, that's a whole nother song that became iconic. Every single dungeon has its own song that goes with it,
Yeah.
and that gets weaved into the game in certain ways. Um, but you go into Gyarados Valley, and you're walking into a desert, and, like, things just really just they feel exciting. And if you go there as a kid, like, there's no way to actually go in and explore.
Mm-mm.
You can't do it. So you're like, it's almost like a tease because you're like, you're faced with this great music, but there's just nowhere to go. And so you have to wait till you're an adult until you have a Pona because you need to jump over you need to jump over the broken fence.
Mhm.
And then finally, like, you're able to, like, meet a carpenter, and the carpenter fixes the bridge and all that, and then so you don't have to do it again. That place remains forever cut off as a kid until you go through a whole storyline where you have to be sneaky, you get arrested, and you have to break out of prison, and you have to, like, use the hook shot to, like, get up into the high parts so people don't see you, and you have to, like, not get caught, and then you end up, like, in these rooms where you get locked in, and all of a sudden a Gerudo comes down with, like, these 2 knives, and they're fast, and you have to figure that out, and that's just my favorite part. Then you finally get to the dungeon, and the dungeon is closed. So then I believe you run into Sheik, and Sheik takes out her instrument, I think it's a harp,
It's a harp.
and teaches you the song of that dungeon. So now you have to go back as a kid. You have to use the song. You have to teleport to where the dungeon is. You have to go through another section because you end up meeting a Gerudo princess, and she's too small to get into where she needs to go. So you happen to be a kid, and now after playing as an adult and feeling powerful for so long, now you're back to like the Kokiri sword or the Deku shield, and you have to go through this area again as a kid. Like that whole area and that whole storyline is like the peak part of the game to me. I adore it.
Isn't it
Where
kinda cool too that they actually made Zelda, chic, who, like I can't remember another time in the game where she went from, like, damsel in distress to actually this person that's guiding you, and it's kinda
yeah,
this little warrior princess ninja person thing. Like, in the past games, what was she doing most of the time? Sleeping. Just laying
sleeping
down,
or trapped
chilling.
in a crystal or
She was
hiding
probably
in a
sleeping there too.
church.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
she's usually napping. She's usually sitting there napping while we go out and do all the heavy lifting. And this one, it's like it's
she's a
a
ninja.
team game. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, it was she actually did some heavy lifting, which was appreciated
and
for the past couple Zelda games.
Breath of the Wild, you don't see her because she's actually like in the castle using magic to keep Ganon from taking over Hyrule.
Yeah, I'll give her. But that was later. I'll give her some
Yeah.
credit for there.
And
Thank you,
and
princess.
I think Nintendo has tried to make her more
Active.
empowered and more active, and I kinda like that. Like in Wind Waker, she was a pirate.
Yeah,
Like, she was a pirate captain.
but in this game, she's a stealthy ninja,
Yeah,
which I thought was cool. She teaches you songs, which I thought was kind of cool. I actually did not expect you to say that was your favorite area, but and as soon as you said, I was ready. I had something in the back of my head. I was like, this is ridiculous. He's going to talk about an area that's like this big and has it's got some cool tunes, and you're there for like 10 minutes. But no, no. Now as you described it, I'm like, yeah, that was cool. We got some stealth play. I really
yeah.
having a sneak around. That was actually a lot of fun. I'll give you that. Um, it's funny. I'm gonna take it a different direction. My favorite area was the most terrifying and annoying area in the entire game. No, not the water temple. Uh, I loved the shadow temple. It was that you talk about horror elements. The ideas of things rising out of the ground. Did you also notice? Anyone ever play this? You never noticed this. As soon as you enter the Shadow Temple, unlike the other temples, which are very temple-like, stone walls and vines and your classic tropes for dungeons, this was actually a torture chamber. You saw skeletons on the ground and blood stains and shackled walls and cages. And again, to the young viewers and whatnot, you making this game, it's almost like they got inspiration from Silent Hill. So they have these areas, and the monster design. Oh my God, do you guys remember the first time a Re-Dead jumped on you? Of course you do. Of course, everyone remembers. You're thinking of it right now, but you also remember the first time that boss came out. We all know what I'm talking about. The giant shambling thing with the hands that grab you and whatnot, and you're just clueless. You have no idea how to hurt this thing. And because you're too busy just looking at it. Like this is a Zelda game still. You kind of gotta snap yourself back into it. But
Yeah,
I
there's a
actually have to take this
lot of
moment.
horror elements in this game.
Yeah. But I actually
Like
have to take
like
this moment to thank you.
the screaming, the Red Dead
Oh, that's oh
screaming
my God, the
as a kid
screaming.
scaring you. like to the point where you literally get frozen and it just zooms in
Yeah,
and you
just like in real life.
cannot move. You're literally like doing this with the controller. You're like, and so your blood pressure and your heart rate are going up in in real life as well as links are in the game.
Yeah. Um, and honest to God, I'm going to be brief on this one because there's so few bad things for me to think about in this game. But the only bad thing I could honestly think of, and when I say bad, it's a lowercase b. It all has to do with one thing, and yeah, as is water, is water. I cannot stand the water temple. This was before game. Don't you look at me like that. This was before game facts. This was before the Reddit. This was before the internet could give you a nice little printout of where to go and what to do. Our printouts were going back to high school and saying, "What the heck did you know how to do this, do that?" And like having meetings on this temple. That and the idea of carrying around a fish person on my shoulders through a fish's belly. To this day, I think back on that. I'm like, I just had to get through those
So
temples. Just
anything
had to.
it's funny you mentioned that because anything involving water just did kind of seem unusually tough.
Especially the 90s. Sewers and
Mm.
everything.
So like even like the fact that in order to navigate that temple, you needed to have these boots
Oh god, I forgot about the boots.
that would like literally put you to the ground, but it was more than that
Yeah.
because there was a breath system in this game. So you
Yep.
couldn't just put the boots on, you needed to
Nope.
have special armor that could help you breathe underwater.
Yep.
So like you needed to become equipped to deal with that. And then once you got down there, you couldn't draw your sword.
That's right. Oh, there's more bad. It
So
just keeps
just
adding up.
so just the they went it's like they went out of their way to make water bad.
Yeah.
And
It
whenever you
was
see
clever though.
water, like even just going into Lake Hylia
Yeah.
and like seeing like it's all nothing but water, it's almost a breath of fresh air when you go there in the future and like the lake is like mostly drained.
It was. It was kind of cool too walking at the
Yeah.
bottom of the lake. I thought that was kind
Yeah.
of refreshing. Kind of
So
nice touch to it.
so like when you beat the water temple, you do end up restoring that, but yeah, water bad in this game.
Water
And
bad.
yeah,
Water very bad. And that's the only and I mean it. That's the only thing I could really pick out and be like, that was annoying. I mean, we both talked about mini games, and
the
obviously
mini
there's
games
not a
were
person on earth.
really annoying.
Oh, they're brutal. They're
They're
brutal. Would you like
brutal.
to have a better life and have more life and last longer in this game? Well, you better hit this target 50 times accurately with arrows. And if you don't, you have to buy more arrows. Oh, you're out of gold. Well, go earn more gold. Oh my God. I have to take this one to thank you, Mikhailov, though. So what people don't know is that Mikhailov over here is my hero. I'm going to tell you why. Because a young Nefarious Ways, when I in 1998, I loved this game so much. I played it up until the last dungeon, got to the last dungeon, and stopped because in my stupid brain, rattling around in here, said, "Well, if I don't beat it, it never ends." And I've carried that mentality all my life through all my relationships and in my games, and it's worked out just great. So I stopped, and I did not pick up this game again until 2022. So that I remember I looked over here to this handsome fellow over here, and I told him this, and the look of pale horror. You never beat Ocarina of Time? And I was like, yeah. I just kind of sat there. I even have my original copy right here, and to this day, the save file's right there with me standing in Ganon's final temple, doing nothing. And so this man over here, he loaned me a gaming device, and I finally last year beat Ocarina of
I didn't
Time.
loan
So
it to you. I'm pretty sure I bought it for you.
actually, I was gonna say it's still over here. You definitely gave it to me. Thank you, by
Yeah,
the way.
of
And
course.
so I have to thank him because thanks to Mikhailov, please all run to his channel, subscribe because he went ahead and made a childhood dream come true for me.
And I kind of wish Ship of Arcanian was around when you first got the Odin because I would have had you play it that way.
Either way, it was still good. I sent you that screenshot of the VN screen. Oh my god, it was so precious.
Very proud of you.
I'm proud of me too.
Yeah.
So did you
So,
not? So we got through all the bad stuff or whatnot with the games, mini games, because I didn't like those either.
do you want to get in the ratings?
Yeah, go ahead. I can't wait to see where you put this game because you played it. I played it a little bit more recently than you, but these games never die.
Well, I've played it multiple times, so
Okay.
Honestly, it's very hard for me to rate this game poorly because just it did so many things right.
Mm,
And it's hard not to be biased. Did
mm,
it age well compared to games today? Maybe not. But we wouldn't have the games we have today if it weren't for Ocarina of Time. We wouldn't have Monster Hunter. We wouldn't have Final Fantasy XIV. We wouldn't have Horizon Zero Dawn.
mm,
We wouldn't have the newer God of War games, even the older God of War games.
mhm.
Like the Nintendo has this habit of creating a formula that works out so well that other companies copy it. Maybe copy
Yeah,
is the wrong word, but it influences further decisions made
inspires.
by the industry, inspires.
Yeah,
And this was definitely a game that did it because it had
yeah.
so many firsts. It was the first game to have 3D sword combat.
Yep.
It was the first game to have a targeting system. It was the first game to have you go into first person mode to actually have to aim your slingshot and your arrows. Um, and so there's so many firsts in this game that we wouldn't have any of the games we have today without it.
Mm,
It has a compelling story. It manages to tell that story with very little voice acting.
yeah.
Um, Now that said, there are some things that are just downright annoying. The mini games, the water temple, Jabu Jabu's belly, like you mentioned, although I kind of like that dungeon. I
We'll
just
talk later.
like dungeon. Well, that's another thing I have to give it points for because dungeon design is very unique. Your first dungeon is a tree. Your third dungeon is inside a fish. The temples within themselves are uniquely designed. So, like even that, everything about this game, except for like some annoying parts, keeping like your max life gated behind these really hard challenges
Mm,
I don't care for. I I still think that this game is pretty timeless. And I think like any younger person could pick up this game today and still enjoy it.
mhm,
So I'm gonna give it a very good rating.
mm.
And we're gonna go 9 out of 10 Deku seeds.
Ooh, ooh, that's strong. You and Metacritic are on the same page.
What about you, Nefarious?
So I have to agree with everything you said there. I'm gonna add a little bit more. I think this was one of the first games in my childhood, at least. Not one of the first, but one of the few that actually also had a compelling villain. Like in most older games, your villain is just that thing at the end you kill. Gandorf had a personality. He had a purpose. You got to learn his inner workings. I am attached to a game that has a great villain. Case in point. So that definitely adds to it. I don't think there you could take that away no matter how far the game ages. I agree with you. I think the gameplay, despite being a little janky on the controls, and we all could talk about the N64 controller, whether you love it or hate it or despise it, um, it's a little janky. Um, as far as I cannot take away what it did in the past. It is an iconic, well-known game. After you and me are well beyond playing video games in the sky, I think people are going to remember this game and it's going to be in the halls of eternity somewhere. That being said, I do not think it aged particularly well in comparison to other games that come along. I think that you're going to find things like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom being looked at a little bit longer, with Ocarina kind of being like that grandfather that people like, yeah, he was great, man. And thanks to him, we got this, but we got this. So that being said, I'm going to give it an 8.5, 8.5 pose out of 10 pose.
Okay. So, with that, I think it's time to get into some viewer questions.
Let's hear him.
So, we got a lot.
Oh, we have to. Oh, no.
Um I put out the feelers into two communities. Shout out to the Steam Machine podcast, also shout out to the Retro Handhelds community. Um and I got responses from both communities. So I think what we're gonna do for this segment is I think we're gonna take 5 of those questions, and then we'll save some more for the next time.
Okay, that sounds fair.
And then when we run out, we will ask the community for more questions.
And don't think if we skipped you today, we still love you, and I promise you, we're going to talk to you next time we come around.
So we're gonna start from Andrew,
Hi, Andrew.
and he's got a lot of questions.
Oh, God, Andrew.
But number one,
Mm,
how dare you?
mm, mm. How dare I, Andrew? You ask me, Andrew, how I dare? I'll tell you how I dare. Boldly, and usually with lots of caffeine and sugar.
Yeah, we're filming this right on a Saturday morning.
I'm tired.
And this is our second recording because the first one is in the ether. It's
We won't talk
gone.
about that. We won't
Mm,
talk about it. It's
Listen,
not there.
we make mistakes in these scene. Please forgive our shortcomings. It is my computer's fault. It is not my fault. How dare you?
I was already asked that.
All right. From Ban.
Hey, man.
Why are you like this?
Thank God. You sound like my mom. Why am I like this, you ask? Well, uh, it has a lot to do with the caffeine and sugar intake, but also lack of sleep.
It's mild depression.
Mild, mild,
Use humor to hide the tears.
constantly.
Yeah.
Can't see the tears on a clown's face.
So listen, I am like this due to 90% concentrated force of will.
Mm, at least 90.
At least 90%.
Yeah.
The other 10% is a general sense of constant fatigue.
Yes.
From Crystal is Cozy.
Hi, Crystal. Glad you're cozy.
What's a game that's been on your to play list forever, but you still haven't gotten around to? And why
Mm.
is it on there?
You want to go first? Because you have a list that's like a mile long. So I want to know which one of like the 30 that you're going to pick.
I completely forgot what I was going to pick too.
Do you want me to go first? Because mine's easy. Mine's something that actually hurts me to say, and everyone hates me for it.
Go ahead.
Okay. Please, if you're listening and watching this, please just at least I have nice hair. Don't hate me. The game I've been trying to play for decades is Dino Crisis. I am a huge fan of survival horror games. I have played and beaten all the Silent Hills, Resident Evils. We'll throw Dark Souls in there too because I mean, come on. Uh, and I have never picked up Dino Crisis. I started it. I saw the intro. Give me credit for that. But Dino Crisis is on my list. And at the time of this recording, I'm going to have Mikhailov over here slap me upside the head and maybe start Monday. We'll see.
Play on the Steam Deck.
That's the idea.
Mm.
So come on, just pick one of the 30. You want to like throw a dart at a board? Which one? Which one's it going to be?
Earthbound.
Yeah, good choice. Very good choice.
So, funny story is you haven't played a game that I beat, which is
Mm,
really weird because I played and beat Dino Crisis, and I am not a fan of that genre at all.
mm.
But Dino Crisis was different. Don't ask me why, because I
Why?
don't know. But I played and beat that game. But Earthbound is kind of a grind fest,
It is.
and there's really no reason for me not to be able to play it because I can just fast forward through the grind fest now. One would argue that it's actually easier to play now than it was back on the Super
Yeah.
Nintendo,
Oh yeah.
but I can never finish it. I get to the same spot every time I play, and then I put it down, and I don't know why.
I love the person that asked that question because they just went ahead and let us like air our shame publicly for it to be recorded for the annals of time until we beat these games. So
Yeah,
whoever did that, you're better than most
yeah.
therapists.
Thanks, Crystal.
Thanks, Crystal. Glad you're cozy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I'm just kidding. We love you, Crystal. You're awesome.
yeah, you are.
Crystal's very awesome, by the way. You should totally check out our YouTube channel.
Do it.
Yeah. Uh, from Dalton.
Hi, Dalton.
What is your favorite obscure JRPG? I'll go first on this one.
Okay.
So I like a JRPG series called YS, and they have about 9 games. And each game follows the same adventurer. His name is Adol. And it's all different adventures at different points of his life. And they're all not connected to each other. Like they never relate to each other, they never reference each other. Other than the fact that like he may be traveling with some of the same people. But my entry to this series was on the SNES from a game called Ys 3, Wanderers from Ys. And my dad bought me this game at a local pawn shop. He just came home with it one day. It must have been like, I don't know, $5. It was a cheap game, and my dad didn't really understand video games other than this is a Super Nintendo game. I bought my son a Super Nintendo. I'm going to bring him home this game. He would never buy me games. He would always take me to the local video store to rent them because he had no problem spending $5 for me to have a game for 5 days. But he had a lot of issues spending $50 for me to have a game all the time. So I never owned Chrono Trigger until recently. I would always rent it, and then I would always get I would always get to the same spot every time. I would get to Giga Gaia, and then I would have to return it. And so I never beat that game until and I was an adult.
But you got to beat Yeez though.
But I got to beat Ys. It was a much shorter game. It's a side-scrolling hack and slash RPG.
Hmm.
And I played that game over and over and over again, and I knew exactly where to, like, set down the controller and put pressure on the up and the Y button, so that way he would constantly slash his sword up. Actually, no, that's a lie. I had a turbo controller that did that for me.
Fancy.
And so I would set the controller down, and I would just let him continually slash the air because bees would constantly be going back and forth on the screen. And he would just constantly shoot the bees or kill the bees. And every time he killed the bee, he would get experience. So I would put that game down, go to dinner, whatever, come back. I'd be at
Oh
max
my
level. I'd
god.
chow through the rest of the game.
You hacked through it. That's amazing. You found a
Mul-
glitch.
Multiple times. And unfortunately, like I went through a phase of my life where I had to sell my entire video game collection to eat
Yeah,
and
let's
pay
not talk about
bills.
that. Let's not talk about that. That breaks my heart to hear.
So I just recently found a copy of the game and I bought it again, and it's in my SNES collection. And I adore it and I love it, and I feel like I need to
Huh,
play it again.
huh.
So, last question of the day, um, from Nate. What's your Final Fantasy hot take? I think we have the same one.
What do you mean by hot take?
Unpopular opinion.
Unpopular opinion, huh?
Yeah. Want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead because I have two and I'm wondering which one's going to be the most get me the most hate.
15 and 16 are hot garbage.
Oh, that's not opinion. That's established fact. 16 is garbage. Terrible.
So is 15. They're both bad.
I mean, I played 15 minutes of 15. I really can't, but the combat system just made me want to fall asleep. So,
Yeah.
you since you eliminated one for me because I was going to say 16. I hated that game. Oh my god, start to finish. I can't. You're still kind of playing it on again, off again, aren't you?
On again, off again. Because I
Yeah.
feel
Why
like
don't
I
you
need to
off
get to
again?
the end. But
Okay.
yeah, it's already lost me.
Okay. I'm not even gonna do the other one where everyone's like, Final Fantasy VIII sucks because of the mug mechanic. Like, okay, we get that. Here's mine. Are you ready? You're all sitting down. Here it is. I think Sephiroth is an overrated villain. I think he is. Yeah, yeah,
Wow!
yeah. I'm sorry. I got him a little bit in terms of villainy. I like a good villain, and I totally understand him, and I totally get what's going on. But I am done with the edge lord, samurai katana wielding, long haired dude. Give me Kefka any day, man. You know, give me Kefka any day.
We know you love to clown around.
Yeah. And again, I know that's bringing it down pretty hard, but I mean, maybe I'm just so old. I've seen Sephiroth so much. I've seen the screen names. What's your screen name? Sephiroth 1940. Blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, man. And the cosplays, everyone and their brother is Sephiroth. Show me some Kefka, man.
Yeah, no, that's actually kind of valid. I won't judge you too much for that.
Just a little.
Just a little.
I allow it.
So that's our viewer questions. We will get to the rest of them in 2 weeks when we play our next game. So, Nefarious, I'm gonna give you 3 games,
Give them to me.
and it's your pick this week.
Oh my God.
So, of the 3 games I'm going to give you,
You're giving me so much power.
you're going to pick 1.
All right. Let's do this. Throw them my way.
Alright. From
Mm.
the game of the month in
Mm-hmm.
the Retro Handhelds community, retrohandhelds.gg, if you would like to join that Discord.
Yes.
There are 3 games that we
Okay.
can play.
All right. Let's hear them.
From 1993,
Yep.
SNES Illusion of Gaia.
All right.
From 1999,
Mm-hmm.
Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver for the
Oh.
PS1.
Oh wow.
And from 2001, for Game Boy Advance, Wario Land 4.
This game was rigged, Mikhailov. You're talking to a man that grew up when one of his all-time favorite games ever was Soul Blazer. So how could I not choose its successor in spirits? My friend, let's do Illusion of Gaia.
All right. So that's that. We're doing Illusion of Gaia, which means that's my pick next week. Or
Yeah,
next time.
yeah, you can have the freedom. This was a lot of power. I'm nervous.
Yeah. So no, next time it's my pick.
Yeah, why not?
All right. So with that, that just leaves some of the house cleaning.
Clean
Now,
that house.
This is episode 1, so I'm not gonna lie, I have not yet quite set up how this is going to go on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, but I think there's a program that'll do it for me. I just have to set it up.
Mhm.
But when it does show up, please do us a favor and give us a
Yeah.
5-star review and let us know what you think of this pilot episode.
Yeah.
And if it stinks and we could do better, leave us a 5-star review and tell us what we need to do better. Tell us how we stink, but still leave us that 5-star review.
Yes.
You
our
may also
self-esteem.
be watching this on YouTube. Please give a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Team Retro, where you will find more of myself and Nefarious Ways talking about retro games and retro handhelds. If you would like to support us on Patreon, you will get these episodes early and ad-free, and you will also get access to a special Patreon-only section that you can access either on Patreon or through a special podcast feed, which I will set up.
Great.
And that will be ad-free. You'll get them early. And you will also get your name read at the end of the show, like these wonderful people: Neo Spartan, Michael Benny, Chocho, Dan Sharks, the Steam Machine Podcast. Go check them out. They have an amazing podcast, and I'm going to be on it at the end of the month. Regs, and Ban 675, the man with the cheese.
So beautiful, those people. My God, look at them.
Yeah, look very attractive.
If you join the Patreon, I will also give you a completely customized compliment built just for you from what little I know of you.
You know very little.
I
But
like the
that's okay.
spelling of your name.
That's actually not a bad idea. I'd say
There it is.
you pick one and
Mhm.
you just say something really nice about them.
That's a great idea.
We'll do that next time.
Next time it is.
Okay, sounds good. So, any last thoughts, Nefarious Ways? Anything you would like to plug?
I may be having a channel of my own coming up. So if you have any suggestions of what you would like me to talk about in the gaming, Dungeons and Dragons, or book-related world, please let me know. Contact me over at Nefarious Ways Gaming at YouTube. And I would love to hear from all of you about how handsome and beautiful I am. Please say only nice things, because I'm fragile.
He's surprisingly fragile.
Yeah, weak.
Yeah, weak. On that note, we're going to step away and change that because Nefarious and I now have a gym appointment that we need to keep.
Let's do this.
So, from Nefarious Ways, for Team Retro, this has been the We Played a Game podcast. And we're going to sign off by saying we might be busy,
But always find time to game.